now more than ever, people believe that if they want it, they should have it, and they should have it now. And that kind of mindset leads to hasty decisions and a lack of homework and eventual fulfillment of like the puppy mill's business model, which is simply supply and demand. Welcome to episode 13 of the Pawdoption Guide podcast. I'm your host, Bethany Muir, and this is your one-stop shop for the knowledge and advice you need to adopt and integrate the rescue dog of your dreams. So we're taking a bit of a detour today from dog adoption. You'll see that it's very much connected. But yeah, it's a little bit of a detour, and that's because I've just been noticing over the last 2 years while I've been helping people, giving them some adoption advice and, not necessarily to just clients, these are just regular people, maybe friends, family, that just inquire about some pet adoption tips. And as I've been assisting those people, I have seen time and time again that they will say, okay, I want to adopt, choose that avenue. And then eventually after, the application process and just putting in a few applications, they are giving up. So they don't hear back from the rescue following a few applications, and they just go, I can't wait anymore. I need to get a dog. And then they head right on over to Kijiji and start searching for a puppy there. And they get what I like to call their instant dog gratification. And it just breaks my heart because, one, I'm really sad that people aren't more morally committed to adopting homeless pets. I feel like that's such an ethics thing, that there are so many animals out there that need homes, and it's sad to me that we aren't more committed to that. And it's really just about that instant gratification. And then two, it's frustrating that there are so many pets in need, but the process has become so arduous and difficult for the average person to see it through. So, there is a problem happening there as well, because it's not like it used to be. A lot of people could handle the process because it was quicker. And certainly, it shouldn't just be you put in your application and you get the dog. I don't disagree with that. But has it gone way too far to the other end of the spectrum? I think a little bit. And that's why the Pawdoption Guide membership experience is going to be a necessity for people, because if they want to see pet adoption through, it does take patience and it takes knowledge. And that's how I'm going to educate people to be able to make it through that process and to get out to the other side and get such a reward for showing some true perseverance and dedication to this process and to their value system. And three, of course, it's easy to get a dog on Kijiji, but you can almost guarantee that you're supporting a puppy mill or a puppy mill broker, which is like basically a sales agent for a puppy mill. So that's why my heart is so broken every time I hear someone who first said, we're adopting, and then ever so quickly after that says, and we got our puppy yesterday, and they're from whatever random place. And, sure, I'm so happy for people who can find reputable breeders and end up getting a puppy that way. But that is not what's happening here. The people who could not handle waiting in the adoption process are not waiting to go on a wait list or to see when another litter arrives from a reputable breeder. They are not seeking that avenue because it takes too much time. So, unfortunately, they're just heading right to Kijiji. And again, that's not where your reputable breeder is posting their dogs. So now we need to talk about that. How can you go about getting a puppy ethically? I've always been a cheerleader for adopting pets from rescues and shelters. And growing up, I honestly didn't know any other way. All of my family pets either were just kind of rehomed to us or came from a shelter. And it wasn't really until I stepped into veterinary medicine as a registered veterinary technician that I got that inside scoop of the world of breeding and breeders. And I will personally always choose rescue and shelter pets over a breeder. But for some, choosing a breeder is the best approach. And I can see that. And I often suggest that approach to people who are seeking hypoallergenic dogs or cats because rescues can't guarantee those things. And in that process, with a reputable breeder, you should be able to take your allergic family member to meet the dog and ensure that there are no issues prior to actually finalizing that purchase of that dog. However, so many people don't know what it means to find a reputable breeder. And so they may be naive in thinking that they have found one when really puppy mills and puppy mill brokers have just gotten really good at trying to get your business. And they are honestly just waiting for people to fall off the adoption bandwagon and find them on Kijiji. So, not everyone is cut out to get a puppy. And I think that's one of the other frustrating parts for me is that I also understand that a lot of people who end up going that route when they first were looking at adopting aren't looking for a puppy or weren't looking for a puppy. That is not their dream dog. They were happy to get an adult. They wanted a senior, whatever. They didn't necessarily want the puppy phase. And it takes a lot to get a puppy. I say you might as well have a newborn baby at your house because they're dependent on you. They have high needs and, you need to be able to provide that. And there are a lot of people, a good percentage of pet owners who can't provide what a puppy needs. So that's why it's better to get an adult or a senior or a dog where you know what their needs are based on what the rescue shares with you. So it frustrates me that a lot of people go, oh, well, the quickest way to get a dog is to get a puppy, and that might not be the best fit for them, and usually isn't, but they choose it because it's quick and they can get it now. And so again, frankly, I don't care if your puppy comes from a reputable breeder. That is a personal choice. However, I most certainly do care if your puppy comes from a puppy mill. Puppy mills are thriving in this impulse buying culture that we've created. And now more than ever, people believe that if they want it, they should have it and they should have it now. And that kind of mindset leads to hasty decisions and a lack of homework and eventual fulfillment of the puppy mill's business model, which is simply supply and demand. Hearing people abandon pet adoption so quickly without really giving it a chance and just, running for the Kijiji hills really grinds my gears, but it also lights a fire inside of me. And my passion to support dog rescues and shelters is honestly more alive than ever. And one of those reasons is because I have listened to the Puppy Scammers podcast. And it shares about our local being Southern Ontario, Canada, puppy mill crisis. And Kimberly Thomas is the owner of Kismet Rescue, and she has a wealth of knowledge, and she shares a lot about her experience on episode 1 of this podcast. And her particular perspective is extremely eye-opening, as she's had this insider's view of puppy mills in the area from a really young age. And when I listen to the stories she shares, it just brings it all to the present. It makes it all that more real because it's easy to just think about puppy mills as like an American problem or something that doesn't happen that much. But it's very much alive and well in our area. And I've kind of come to understand that there will always be people who choose ignorance and impulsivity over information. And I can't help those people. However, I can help like the multitudes of future pet owners that have had no exposure to the world of puppy mills and brokers. And although my exposure is limited, I've certainly had my fair share of stories that I've heard from colleagues like RVTs that see cases come into their clinics, but also listening to that podcast, it really is very clear that there is a market for puppy mills in our area, and we're feeding it. So that's the end of my rant. How can we do something about this instead of just being frustrated by it? How can we avoid supporting puppy mills and make sure we're purchasing a puppy in an ethical way? And that means getting a puppy from a reputable breeder. 1, don't shop on Kijiji. You can almost guarantee, as I said before, that a puppy from Kijiji is not ethically bred and comes from a puppy mill or a puppy mill broker. So the Canadian Kennel Club has a puppy list, and it's proven to be an unregulated resource. So that's not necessarily where you can go to find the right breeder. I really recommend that you investigate breeders via a word of mouth. So other people who have gotten healthy dogs and have seen that they have support from their breeder, as well as wisdom and knowledge from that person. Or provincial and regional breeder groups that you can find through searching on Google. These groups often have their own list, and that tends to be overseen and is more likely to have breeders that are quality because they're smaller lists, and they're these local groups that do band together, and they make sure that they keep on top of their list and they don't let anyone in who doesn't suit the criteria. Whereas Canadian Kennel Club puppy list, it's a very big, broad list, and I think you can just apply to be part of it, and there's really no one going through and making sure you actually follow the criteria that they recommend. The next way to make sure you're purchasing a puppy ethically by getting it from a reputable breeder is you see where puppies are being raised and you meet one or both of the parents. So you got to ask yourself, when you go to see this puppy, are its parents healthy? Are they socialized? Do you get to see that? Can you ask to take them for a walk? A breeder should be proud to show you at least one parent and where the puppies are raised. And COVID is not a reason for that to not happen. So even if they were going to show you via a virtual tour, then that's fair. But, you should be seeing dogs walking around. You should see that's actually where they're being raised. And lots of puppy mills will try and use COVID as a reason for not showing you places. So that is a right to you as someone who is looking to purchase a puppy. It's your right to know where they are raised and to see it or experience it. Indoors is always preferable to a farm, as dogs that are raised indoor are often better socialized. They're often potty trained quicker, and they're usually breeding single litters in those facilities because they don't have a huge amount of land or a huge farm in which they can have them in different stalls. And certainly when that's the case, we start thinking about commercial breeding facilities, which again is still technically a puppy mill. It's all about their quality of care. And when you're mass breeding puppies, it's very difficult to do so in a way that you're providing enough care for them, you're providing all the necessities, but you're also making sure that you're doing the testing that's appropriate, you're vetting them appropriately, and you're also socializing them. And puppy breeders that are mass producing are really not concerned about upholding breed standards. They are cutting corners because they want to make puppies accessible year round and want to make a really good profit off them. So you should be looking for a breeder who's in it for the breed, in it for the dogs, not in it for the money, because it's quite clear when that's the case. They are proud to sell their puppies and to make a connection with you for the life of that dog and be a resource to you in terms of what you can expect from the breed. Another thing you can do is demand legitimate vet records. So a puppy mill will provide a certificate of vaccination or a health exam too, but they often appear to have questionable details because they are not, in fact, legitimate. Most puppy mills are forging these sorts of documents, and if you take a careful look or ask questions about the document, you'll find that the person who's passing along the document has no information about it. They're not wise about it, and things aren't really lining up. And that's your moment to just walk right on out of there. So it's things like incorrect details for the puppies. Maybe it says the breed is different, or the sex is different, or the age is different than what they've told you. That may make you think that, okay, maybe this was someone else's health exam. And corrections on the page, these documents, they are not usually handwritten anymore. So if you're seeing all these scribbles on the page, then again, who's been messing with the document? And if there's that lack of knowledge, they don't know when you ask them questions about the document, then that is a red flag. So don't ignore these signs just because you want that puppy. It's really possible that you're purchasing an unvaccinated puppy or even an ill puppy. And, there are reasons why dogs get their vaccines at a certain age. And especially if they're mass producing puppies, they are that much more likely to be passing around viruses and diseases. And those are things that need to be vaccinated against in order to keep them in check. And this is where puppy mills like to cut corners to make a good profit. And one of the easiest things you can do to really determine whether you're talking to a breeder or you're talking to a puppy mill broker or a puppy mill owner is to just ask that breeder questions. So a responsible breeder should happily share their wisdom about your puppy and its specific breed and its temperament and its health status, things to watch for in the breed as they age, or, again, specific personality traits that they have. Ask these details and ask them about their vaccinations, their deworming. What is your puppy protected against based on what they've given them? Have them share their knowledge about common breed health concerns. What have they done to safeguard this puppy against those? So those are those tests. Sometimes there's eyesight tests, hearing tests. There can be hip dysplasia tests. There are quite a few tests that when there are breeds that are prone to specific health concerns, they can have those assessed right as they are a puppy. And that way they can make sure that they are continuing the breed in an appropriate manner and are, verifying that they're giving you a healthy puppy. And of course, a puppy mill is never concerned about whether they're giving you a healthy puppy. They'll just be like, yeah, they're good. Yeah, he eats a lot, eats like a horse. They're not going to have details like this. So this is a really simple thing. Just ask the questions. And don't be afraid to find out the answer, right? If you're getting just basic information from them that you could have said yourself or, Joe Blow could have said, then you, again, should just leave. So ask the breeder questions. Responsible breeders care about people purchasing their puppies, and they will also have a criteria for you to pass in order to get a puppy, they will want to know where this dog is going. And they are invested in your puppy raising journey, and they want to be a resource for you for years to come. So those things are really obvious when you just take a moment to ask the breeder questions. You should be getting knowledge, advice, and they shouldn't be uncomfortable about it. They should be very forthcoming and happy to answer your questions. And lastly, for those that are making the argument that, well, so say you ask these questions and then you kind of notice that, oh yeah, it probably is a puppy mill. You're thinking, well, I'm rescuing a puppy from this terrible situation. So, I either leave them here or I take them on and then I make their lives better. Well, I want you to consider that puppy's mother's quality of life. Realize that while the puppy is off to better pastures, the mother is left behind, and she's condemned to a life of overbreeding in terrible conditions. And, if you listen to that Puppy Scammers podcast, you'll hear things about these poor moms and how their health is just awful in their later years, right? They don't even have to be that old, but like at 5 or 6, some of them are having all their teeth falling out of their head. And that's just so wrong, right? You're not seeing that, obviously. You're just seeing the puppy in this case, but know that that's what's behind a puppy mill puppy. So even though you think you're rescuing it, you are really feeding the industry. You are keeping it going, because if people are always going to go to Kijiji once they abandon the adoption ship, then we will always be serving this industry, and there'll always be more puppy mills. So sharing information is one of the simplest ways we can discourage the puppy mill industry. And if you're looking for a puppy or you know someone who is, please share this podcast with them. Let's get puppies the ethical way. And that means, first looking at dog rescues or shelters for puppies that are available for adoption. And if you cannot get a puppy that way, then searching for a reputable breeder, not just heading to Kijiji. There is a really great resource that Humane Canada has on their website called Stopping Puppy Mills in Canada. And if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, I will make sure to put the link in the show notes. Then you can see they have lots of puppy purchasing tips, and it's even more in depth than what we just talked about, but some of the similar points, but a great resource for ensuring that you are getting a puppy the ethical way. So let's recap. We can avoid supporting puppy mills by doing the following. 1, don't shop on Kijiji. Just don't. I know it's tempting, but don't. 2, see where your puppies are being raised and meet one or both of the parents. You have the right to that as someone who's purchasing a puppy. 3, demand legitimate vet records. If there's something that looks shady, ask about it. And based on your answer, you should have a good feeling as to whether this is a legitimate, reputable breeder or not. And number 4, ask the breeder questions. Reputable breeders are more than happy to answer these questions. They will not be offended by you asking a question. They're not going to say, well, you can't have a dog. Not a reputable breeder, okay? So I hope those tips were to the point and something you can make use of, because again, I don't care if you decide to go to a breeder. I know some people who know me personally and know how much I love pet adoption and how much I support dog rescues. They fear that if they tell me they got a dog from a breeder that I'm going to, be offended, but that's not the case. I know that adopting a dog is not always accessible to people. And I also know that it's not always the right choice for you. So that's okay. But I do want people to understand that most of the puppies that they have access to right now are from puppy mills or puppy mill brokers. And so what we need to do is be asking more questions and looking for more specifics and requiring more criteria from people who are offering puppies online in order to make sure we're not being scammed and we're getting a dog that is what they say it is, but also getting a dog from a reputable place. And we're supporting animal welfare and not a part of the problem, but a part of the solution. To sum this episode up, the Pawdoption Guide membership experience is going to be existing because of these stories, because of the people I've heard go get a dog from what we can most certainly say is a puppy mill. And also people who just can't stick out the adoption process anymore because it is so difficult and it's becoming exclusive. And of course, that's not any dog rescue's intention. The Pawdoption Guide membership experience is exactly that solution for people who are becoming impatient and don't think they're ever going to hear back from rescues following those applications. I'm going to help you by educating you and also using my strategies in order to make the most of your dog adoption journey. So I really can help you from, outlining that dream of what exactly you want to searching for the dog and giving you a great resource in my Southern Ontario rescue spreadsheet, which has over 70 dog rescues that you can look through, and helping you with pet finder information as well as the application process. And that is honestly one of the most important parts that people are messing up. That, as well as after you adopt the dog, how you can integrate the dog so you are successful and you're both happy. Your dog is happy and you're happy because you have cultivated a great relationship with them. So I'm here for you for the entire dog adoption journey, and that's the Pawdoption Guide membership experience that is launching in February. So please share this episode with anyone you know looking to get a puppy so that they can do so in an ethical way that helps them sleep at night and doesn't help perpetuate the puppy mill life cycle. You can share the episode's link with a friend, or you can post a screenshot to your Instagram or Facebook story and share it that way. New episodes are uploaded on Thursdays. And don't forget to get in touch with me on social at Pawdoption Guide via Instagram or my Facebook page. As always, thank you for listening, and we'll talk next week.